Hello, this is Dean Phoenix with another part of my Final Fantasy X walkthrough on how to be overpowered in the main story and then get a head start on stat maxing before we continue with that. So, this is basically the next part. I'm going to be doing the Bikanel Island and the desert, and then we're going to be completing home. Now this episode's something that you have to watch out for with this is there are quite a few missable things, and specifically the Bhed primers. There are 3 that are missable, permanently missable in home, and there's 1 that is permanently missable in the Cloister of Trials in Bevelle. So we're going to have to make sure that we take those into account and pick those up. Now the Bikanel Island, it starts with Tidus by himself, but if you've been following the walkthrough and you have some of the more overpowered things, it'll be very easy, and you can probably just take this thing out just by yourself. So use tier a couple of times and then smash it about. Now there are a couple of interesting powerful fiends here in this area. There are these flying birds, the zoo, and there are also a sandworm, and the sandworm has extremely high HP, so it's useful to try and hit it with Demi from Lulu to take its HP down, and then to smash it about with your attacks. And make sure that the party are hasted if you want to take those out a little bit quicker, because otherwise they can be very long fights.
Are you alright?
You can also steal shadow gems from the sandworms with Rikku and Kimahri, and then you can mix 2 of the shadow gems together to deal 75% of its health with the mix overdrive. So if you're getting fed up of those, you can do that as well. Now, there are a couple of Bhed primers to grab. There's this one here, which is not missable because these ones are before you get to home, so you could always come back for these ones, but you might as well make sure that you grab them anyway, and just make sure you pick them up. So they're 17 and 18, and you make sure you can grab them, but like I say, you will be able to return with the airship to get those if you really wanted later on anyway. So there are a few other things that you have to watch out for. In the desert there are lots of the mechs and things like that, but you can take those out pretty easily by stealing from them or just knocking them out. And then when you get to the last part, the last area of the desert, there are quite a few chests that you want to watch out for. In particular, there's this one in the sand trap. As you can see here, the mechs don't actually give that much experience, so you can just steal from them or you can just flee from them or whatever else. And you shouldn't be too bothered about the experience at this point if you're quite over leveled like I was. But you can obtain the Venus crest there, so make sure that you get that one. These other chests here, there will be enemies, Sandragoras, and the chests will go down to those, so you have to beat the Sandragoras before you actually can pick up the chests. Now they can be reasonably tough, but if you've been following the things that I've been doing, they're actually not so bad at all. You can delay them obviously, and then you can actually armor break them as well, and they'll take a good amount of damage from Lulu's spells, particularly if she's got the Aga level 3 spells, which Lulu has just recently got in my game there, so that's quite an easy way to deal a lot of damage. You can also stop them from ever getting a turn just by using Sleep Buster on your turn before they have a attack, and then you can put them to sleep. As you see, Waka was able to just knock it out. Anyway, now you want to make sure that you get this particular chest because there are 2 teleport spheres, and those are extremely useful for going into other characters' grids once you've finished. Now this section at home starts here, and you must make sure that you grab the Bhed primers in this area. It's extremely important. So the only thing in this area here at the start is that Bhed primer 19, so make sure that you grab that. Now you go in and there's a little bit of a cutscene, and then you have to back up, so you have to come back towards the camera and find this room. So you'll be attacked by a dual horn in a little cutscene. So you beat that, you come back into this room, and there is another dual horn waiting in this room, so then you know you're in the right place. You choose elixir there to get an elixir from the first chest, and you can see on the bed there is an Bhed primer number 20, so you must grab that as well. That's another missable one. You'll never have the opportunity to come back to get these. Then you can choose the other password here, so we've got sorry and then wait, and you can see that you can work out which is which because it's the only letter I'm missing, so you can figure out what's missing there. And then pardon as the last one, and that gets you a friend sphere, and again that's very useful for moving around the grid. Now these things can be quite powerful enemies, but this is a good place to get some experience actually, so if you wanted to do that then you can do. Although you will be missing Yuna, so Yuna won't get any of the actual experience here. but make sure you take them out if you want to get a bit of EXP. There's a bit coming up that's a really great grinding spot if you want, but Kimahri won't be available for that one, so you'll either get Yuna missing out here or Kimahri a little later on. Make sure you go into this other room here and you'll be able to recognize it because there'll be another Al Bhed primer. The sound's just gone a bit out of sync there, so that's a shame. But you can see here, you say, "Are you Al Bhed?" Yes. And then who is the son of the Al Bhed leader, his brother. And again, you get some really good little rewards from these chests, so make sure that you choose all the correct stuff there. And then lastly, it's just on Bikanel Island. So, and then the last one is what is Al Bhed in Al Bhed. So you choose those, you get the skill sphere. That's again extremely useful. But the reason you want to get these is because they let you do some things later on. So the skill sphere will let you get Mug with Tidus, which can be very useful if you want to use it for that, or you can save it for an opportunity later on if you think that you're going to need it for something else, or there's something in particular you want to use it for. But having Mug on Tidus is very useful because he's going to be attacking a lot of the time after he's used Slowga at the start of a fight for me, and it's very useful. And the special sphere is the same type of thing. You can let somebody learn any one special ability that another character has already learnt. So then this is the last Al Bhed primer that you need to make sure you get in home. So it's very, very important that you check before you leave home here, before you trigger the last cutscene, which is this bit here. Now make sure you get this slightly hidden chest right at the end, because there's a level 4 key sphere here which will prove useful later because they're quite rare, and there's another level 2 one to grab. So make sure that you have all of the Al Bhed primers 19, 20, 21 before you leave. Now you continue with the story a little bit and you have the fight against Evrae the giant worm. This is a really cool fight. It's a very difficult one in challenge runs and things. It's a very, very tough enemy. But with us being on the overpowered playthrough, it's actually pretty easy. I was trying to show some of the tactics that you'd actually use, but I ended up killing him way before we actually got to using most of them. So first things first, make sure that everybody's got a turn, and Tidus using haste is very useful. You can't cast slow on Evrae, so there's no point trying. And because Kimahri's been on that section of Yuna's grid before he went down to Holy, he has some Holy itself, but he also has some useful curative spells, protect and regen and things that you could use if you wanted as well. But you can see he still deals 9,999 damage there. So this thing hits relatively hard, but when you can do that much damage with Holy, you're only ever a couple of overdrives away from being able to absolutely smash it with attack reels or slice and dice or something like that, if you wanted to use your overdrives on it. And Auron and Tidus will do a large amount of damage. Try and get power break on it as soon as possible with Auron. You can just use the Vanishing Blade overdrive, and as long as you hit the button sequence on that, then it will actually inflict armor break on Evrae guaranteed, so you don't have to worry about the chance of doing that. So that's useful. So again, you can just smash it about a bit, use a couple of holies with Kimahri and then finish it off, and the fight won't last very long at all. You can see there using Sensor on Rikku, it's got power break and it also absorbs all of the elemental spells, which is a shame. So you just have to be a little bit careful with those. So you can cast an actual spell with Lulu, but it's probably best to stay away from an elemental one. So it's also immune to Demi, as you can see there. So not a lot that Lulu can really do in this fight. And just casting haste so that she gets another turn and she can come out of the fight a little sooner. Make sure everybody gets a turn for EXP. You also get black magic spheres from Evrae, so you want to try and make sure that as soon as possible, at the end of the fight you get overkills, because you want to try and get 2 of the black magic spheres if possible. So there are quite a few things that you have to take into account as well. You can move the ship in and out. You can use the commands of Sid to move in and out of range and stop it from being able to hit you. But again, I didn't really feel the need here. And just making sure that you dispel its haste so it doesn't get too many commands. And then just keep smashing it away there. It is vulnerable to delay, so you can use delay with Tidus to knock it back a little bit. And you can also use Protect on Auron and then have him guard with Sentinel, and he can take some of the hits. So he hasn't unlocked Sentinel yet at this part, so you can just make sure that you use guard, and that if Evrae goes for an attack on a character, he'll be able to guard the hit. So basically you just take this thing out, and it's really not that much of a challenge. It'll go down pretty easily, and that'll be that. So after you've done Evrae and home, we'll have the Cloister of Trials coming up, and again it's extremely important that you do not miss the Bhed Primer 22 before the Cloister of Trials, because that is another one that is missable, and you have to be extremely careful with that. So I'm just going to finish evrae off here, and you can just make sure that you get the overkill by finishing it with Holy if you wanted to. This is showing some of the tactics how you would fight this thing normally, but I didn't actually realise that I was going to kill it so easily anyway. So yeah, evrae, really difficult in the challenge playthroughs, but not so much in this fight here. It's pretty good. So you've got this pretty cool cutscene here. There in the little fights leading up to this, there is an opportunity to learn thrust kick from the large robot enemies that stand on one leg. If they are the last enemy in a fight, they will use thrust kick and eject somebody from the battle. So you want to make sure that you try and kill those before at least one other enemy, so they're not left on their own. And you can also use Lancet in these couple of fights before this cutscene to learn thrust kick from the YK robot. So try and do that because the next part that's coming up after the Cloister of Trials, Kimahri isn't available to level up on that. So you see here, Bhed Primer, there 22, and you must grab that one because this is an area that you can never come back to. So you would have to import your Bhed data from another save game, which means playing it all again, if you wanted to get all of the Bhed Primers. Now this is a Cloister of Trials that you can't return to get the Destruction Sphere, but the Destruction Sphere is compulsory. Just try and make sure that you grab a Bevelle Sphere again before you come up to this last section of it, after you've figured out the where you put the Destruction Sphere. But that HP Sphere is actually the Destruction Sphere treasure, and it's unmissable, so don't worry about missing that one. This is not something that can permanently mess up missing Anima, because although there is this optional treasure here, the actual Destruction Sphere treasure isn't missable. So once you figure that out, that's absolutely fine. So after we've done Bevelle and we've got all that, killed evrae, we'll be very close to taking a little trip on the airship and then getting to the Calmlands. And then the Calmlands will be the next episode. So thank you very much for watching, and please like and subscribe.